Here come the pads, here come real football plays. Yeah, here comes our first chance to really weigh what's going on. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into hockey and or baseball. I also happen to offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. 10:30 a.m. is the time at St. Vincent College. And once those drills get started up following stretches, you're going to see, or at least the 2,000, 3,000 people who will show up will see, the first real stuff that matters. And I know, been in this business a while, people love their winners and losers and up-close observations and who looked good and who didn't look good from the first few days of camp. Understandable. Everybody's starved for football. And unless you're one of those fans who cheers when the running back makes it all the way to the end zone on a drill, because they only do that every single time, you're going to know all this. But here's where it gets really fun to get into some of the specifics. Give you an example. Troy Fautanu the other day lines up across from TJ Watt, gives him a pretty good stunting blow with the hands, knocks him back a little bit. Not something that you often see happen to number 90. It does happen on occasion. He's not going to be ever bigger than the people who are trying to block him. But it doesn't mean anything. Why? No pads, nothing physical. There's only so much that either player, whether it's Fautanu or Watt, can do to each other. Is TJ showing all of his best moves? Of course not. Is Fautanu being as physical as he can be, or is he limited to his hands? I think we know that answer. Do you remember, by chance, the battle, and I mean battle, between TJ and Zach Banner in the one COVID camp at Old Heinz Field? I know I won't soon forget it. That felt like it went on for the full month. That felt like it really mattered, not just to the Rook, but also to the All-Pro. You know how much of that mattered before things got physical? Zero. That's going to be fun. That's going to be worth keeping your eye on, whether it's right there in the bleachers at Chuck Noll Field or from afar. I've got another one for you, only it's broader. I want to see all of these wide receivers against all of these DBs. And let me explain what I mean when I say that, because I'm primarily talking about the defensive guys here. Joey Porter, as we all know, is hands-on, not always in a good way, but always. He's bigger than most corners. He's 10 pounds bigger now. He appears to be valuing that additional size, but of course, until the pads come on, he can't really utilize it. Dante Jackson, who one might safely describe as having been a nice, pleasant, I don't want to say surprise, he's been in the league, a pleasant newcomer to this scene. Got all kinds of spirit, all kinds of fire, lets the entire planet know when he's made a play. Beanie Bishop, who looks like he's going to be the slot corner, at least until Cam Sutton comes out of suspension, has shown a lot of that same energy, a lot of that Mike Hilton energy that the coaches have told him they want to see, meaning by name. They've had him studying film of Hilton. They want him to be on the ball. They want him to be on the opponents. That requires pads. You know what else requires pads? For these wide receivers to develop true separation. George Pickens, he's George. He's going to make his plays. He's going to make them when he's double covered. He's going to make them whenever he's got somebody right in his face. He's going to get right back in their face. But can we say that with confidence right now about Calvin Austin? This is not the world's largest athlete. And for Cal to become the complete wide receiver that he keeps talking about wanting to be, he's going to have to make different types of catches on different types of plays other than, you remember that one that he and Kenny Pickett would constantly try to hook up on. I believe they succeeded with it once, but it was preseason. He's got to do more. Roman Wilson, who has shown well in the first handful of days, for whatever that's worth, has to do the same thing. In fact, Wilson comes with more of that background out of college. He's got that feistiness about him. He's got that physicality. He talks about really relishing it. Well, here it is, kid. Show him what you got. Show Arthur Smith specifically what you got, because I can tell you right now from watching a lot of these drills and watching from the way Zach Azzani is handling his wide receivers when it comes to blocking, parentheses, or not blocking, end parentheses, that blocking alone might be what gets you out there more often as WR2. Or, WR3 if they end up getting somebody from the outside. Want another? How about Najee Harris? Najee Harris has dropped weight. Najee Harris is apparently aiming at being able to do more of the things that Jaylen Warren's done, hitting the edge, turning on the inside for extra yardage, catching passes out of the backfield. Great. Let's see it. Can only see it in pads. Want to bring up a crazy name that we'd never, ever, ever, ever normally bring up in a conversation like this? Cam Hayward. You want to get paid? You want to get paid right now at age 35 for an additional 3 years, and you want to get paid at an elite level. Guess what? Now, not in September, not in October, is when you have to get paid. Otherwise, you're just going to go into the season. They're just going to let you go into the season. That will be interesting. Does he still look dynamic? Does he still look like he's getting into the backfield? Does he still look like he's wrecking the line, as opposed to just, doing the kind of damage control he was forced to do last season with the groin injury? You get the idea. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have the first handful of days of camp. They matter, but only as a build-up to the real thing, and this is the real thing. When we come back, J1Q. This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Today's J1Q comes from Chris, who asks, DK, the new kickoff rules haven't been practiced yet, but the roster seems to be changing a bit toward bigger guys who will be able to run to cover it. My question is, how will having to build the roster for these kickoff rules affect the players available for field goal and punt teams, particularly field goals? Chris, the correct and only answer at this juncture is no one has a clue. When you have the world's ultimate football junkie, Mike Tomlin, standing in front of you saying, we have no idea, then that tells me that all he's seen is every UFL kickoff snap in history, and he still came away going, I have no idea. This is the reason, as Tomlin has acknowledged, that the Steelers and Bills have agreed to a joint practice at Acrisure Stadium later in camp. That's supposed to be mainly special teams, just so that both sides can gain some additional understanding, not only of how the rules are going to work, not only what type of personnel they'll need in a certain area of the field or certain responsibilities, but also to figure out, who's going to fill those roles. And if you think about the number of special team snaps that you get in that range where you're trying to make those roster decisions, what are you talking about, really? Like a dozen? So this way, with this controlled setting at Acrisure Stadium, they could get who knows how many in, put them all on film, utilize the players that you think you'll be utilizing in real games, make all kinds of additional judgments. I think it's a really smart move by both teams. But if you're asking me, and the head coach doesn't have that answer, and I believe that he genuinely doesn't, I'm going to give you the same blank stare. But double that whenever I'm talking to these players and I hear them saying things like Chris Boswell is legitimately preparing as if he'll have to make tackles, when defensive linemen are either joking or half joking or possibly even serious about having some sort of roles in those. All of this just takes everything that we've known about the kickoff and just blows it to kingdom come. And for me, if you'll pardon the comparison to a different sport, it's going to be like when baseball put the pitch clock in. And I understand they were still pitching the same distances and everybody was still lined up the same way, but it's that much of a sea change to that component to the game. Not all pitchers could handle operating on a clock. A lot of them, especially the older ones, were used to having their own pace, their own way of doing things, and all of a sudden the umpire's going, come on, come on, come on. This team apparently is concerned enough about it to have brought up Cordero Patterson from Atlanta, special teams ace. Tyler Matakevich back to Pittsburgh from Buffalo, special teams ace. Of course, still having Miles Killebrew, special teams Pro Bowler in 2023, and we still know nothing. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. If you're up around camp and you see a guy walking around, I usually have one of those DK Pittsburgh Sports t-shirts on. It's not really to be a walking billboard. It's to mostly just show that that's all I really own. But always feel free to give a shout, say hi or whatever. And if I have a chance, I'll walk up one of those grass hills to shake your hand. I appreciate everybody listening to this program. We will have another one tomorrow. In pads, by the way.